I just got back from a ski trip and I got stuck up a mountain on a really, really steep slope and I was panicked. And I'm going to share the story with you because as I've been reflecting on it, it has reminded me how we go about things in our own life where we face a challenge and we can focus on the wrong steps. And once you find the right step, it can change everything. So it's been mind blowing for me, this accident that I had up the mountain. Who'd have known afterwards that I'd be sharing it on a podcast? So let me set the scene. First of all, we went skiing, my family and I, which has always been a dream of mine. It's been on my vision board for years. So was such an amazing opportunity for us to go with friends and feel very grateful. I hadn't been skiing in more than 20 years and I was never a great skier anyway. And I did have some refresher lessons. My children also had lessons before they left. And so it was a fun activity for us to go out and do with our friends in Austria. It was amazing. So one of the days we had gone up in the chairlift to this really steep point, and I attempted to tackle it the day before and had got a little bit stuck in some places, but managed to get down it. Felt really confident the next day. And so I thought I'd tackle it again. Now, luckily, my children, they were fine going down this steep bit. They just went down and they went off with my friend, and we'd already agreed, because I was really slow, we'd already agreed that they would go off with my friend and I would just come down in my own time down this really steep slope. And it's really interesting for a few reasons, because one, it really has shown me the power of your own mind and how we can get in our own way. So, for example, when I was skiing on the flatter terrain, I I was fine. My brain felt comfortable and I felt in flow. You just feel like this is working. And as soon as I was facing a different, just a little bit of extra gradient. It was pretty steep, but it wasn't like a black run or anything. My brain just started to shut down. And I literally would come to a turn and I would forget how to turn. It was almost like I'd just forgotten how to ski. It was crazy. So that was the first lesson on reflecting back, is that we can be really proficient in something and really quite good at something, or feel good about something, or in flow, like with our art, with anything. And then something can happen that is out of the ordinary, a challenge, a new environment, somebody watching over our shoulder, for example, and we just completely shut down, like we can't do it anymore. And it was frustrating for me because I knew that it was my head. Um, it was almost like my head going, "You can't do this. You can't do this. You can't do that turn. You've forgotten." And it was really weird. So that was one lesson I just really have come to be aware of when I'm now tackling things in my daily life, really being conscious of I can do this, and being aware of my brain stopping me from doing something. So anyway, then what happened was I was doing these turns really awkwardly and I came around and then I fell. And I fell and I skidded and I really fell in an awkward situation where my legs were bent backwards and I was on a really steep bit, and I hadn't hurt myself properly, but it was like, oh, and then I was just like lying on the slope looking down at this really steep drop. And every time I tried to move, I'd slide down a little bit more and I was panicking. And so I kept then going, right, just calm down, calm down. And then I tried all the things, like trying to move my skis to the side so I wouldn't slip anymore, but I couldn't because my legs are not that flexible. So I couldn't move the skis because my legs were all bent. And then I couldn't get the ski off either because I was at such a weird angle. So I just couldn't get the ski off. I tried to get the pole. And I was really, really struggling. Everything that I was trying just wasn't working. And I then went into the doom, the maze of doom, where I then started to think, oh my God, I'm going to have to get a helicopter to come and get me. I then started to think, oh my gosh, I'm going to have to phone my friend Sonia, who's just gone down, and ask her to come back up and help me get up. Should I start shouting help? So I'm looking around thinking, should I start screaming? I literally started to think every worst possible scenario. And then I started looking at the slope thinking, oh my God, I'm going to fall. I'm going to roll down. It's going to be horrendous. So I had this, it was a really weird moment where I fell, I went into a bit of shock. Then I was trying everything I could to get out of it and it wasn't working. Then I was slipping down and then I escalated into all this bad stuff that's going to happen to me. Being thankful that the children weren't there to watch me in this state. And then I mean, I don't know how long I was up there for. It felt like an hour, but it wasn't. It was probably about 15 minutes. And then after all of this, I had to just calm myself down because I was getting really anxious. So I just decided to just sit still. I just sat still and I just kind of like got my bearings again, looked at the scenery, watched some people in the distance flying down. And I started to say to myself, this is going to be all right. You are going to get out of this. And it was really strange. Once I calmed down and then once I just had a minute, and by the way, this is after convincing myself there's no way out of this. I 100% need help. I am properly stuck. Like I've tried everything. I can't get out of this. I mean, I was literally about to phone my friend and say I'm really stuck. I can't get out. And I convinced myself there was no way out. The strangest thing happened. So after I calmed myself down and I just sat there, I realised that if I just kind of rolled over to the side, I could get out of it. It was so simple. All I had to do was just like whoop, roll over to the side, and then I could kind of move everything round, regain my balance, and I was back up. And I was like, oh my God. So, number one, the elation I felt once I got back on my feet because I thought I was going to be there. I also had thoughts I was going to be there all day. It was going to turn nighttime. Really crazy thoughts. And oh my gosh, I was so elated that I was like, yes, like so beaming, happy that I got myself out of it, but also a little bit kind of surreal because it was so simple. All I had to do was fall onto my side and then I could get out of it. It was just like such a simple maneuver, but I couldn't see it. And so this is what inspired this podcast episode today because it really made me think about how in life, and especially when it comes to our creativity and our art and selling it, for example, so people who approach the selling process, it's like falling on the mountain, and we can go into this state of panic when we're having a show, when we're putting ourselves out there, and we want to desperately get down the bottom of that mountain or whatever it is for you. And sometimes we start trying different steps and they're just not the right ones and they're not working. For example, for some of you listening, it might be that I'm putting my work on social media and it's just not going anywhere. I'm not getting any engagement. I've put my work into this gallery and I didn't sell anything. I have spent a year building this website and no one's looking at it. So these things that we do and they don't get us anywhere, or we feel like we're going backwards, can then derail us, and to the point where we start to think there's no hope, there's no point. You start to then go into the valley of doom where you start to think about all the worst things possible, that you're just going to make yourself look silly, you're going to just waste loads of money, you're going to roll down that hill and break bones. Your mind can just start to escalate. And actually, a lot of the time, there is a one simple action, and it's to roll over and you'll get out of the situation. I talked about this in my book, in fact. And this is what I really want to emphasize here, though, is that sometimes we're trying things and there is something in front of us that is so simple, that is so effective. We haven't tried it yet because we're so in the fear and clutching at straws of what other people have told us that we need to do. I was going through all the things that, this is how you take your skis off if you need to move your skis. I was going through all the things that I've been told, but no one ever told me, well, try and roll on your side, because some things you can't be taught, some things you've got to do in the moment and react to in terms of your own situation. And so it was such an interesting lesson. And in my book, Your Art Matters, I talk about this in a whole chapter, in fact, and it's called Turning Adversity into Advantage. It's called Resilience and Purpose. But it's about how when something facing us is challenging us, how we can turn that into power. And how there's lots of stories in here if you've got the book. I'm talking about page 95. And if you haven't got the book, you can buy it on Amazon, Your Art Matters. I'll put a link in the show notes below. And in here, I share stories of other people that had their own version of slipping on the mountain and being stuck. And there's lots of stories in here, which I'm really happy I included, because they share the challenges that artists face and how they actually use that as an advantage. And so for me, that slip on the mountain and then getting out of it was so exhilarating. I was so proud of myself. And I was like, see, because I had so much fear and panic on that mountain, and a lot of it was because of what if I fall. And it gave me more confidence to know that I can tumble and I can get into a sticky situation and I can get myself out of it. So it was empowering. And same stories in here. Some of them are about age, some of them are about mental health challenges, losing jobs, being in the wrong location. In the book, we talk about some of the biggest ones that artists face and how you can overcome them. So today I want to leave you with that thought around being aware when you're maybe in a state of flux, a state of hitting a dead end, hitting the wall, where you feel like you've tried everything, nothing's working. And sometimes maybe you need to just sit for a minute and step back, like I did. I just sat and I just took everything in. And I almost for a moment just convinced myself that I'm not stuck on a mountain. I'm just sat having a break. I'm just sitting here. I wish someone could have filmed me and I could have shown you. It was really quite spectacular. It was funny looking back now. And I'm very fortunate that I wasn't injured. But so it's about just recognizing. And then sometimes the answer will come to you. That thing about, oh God, maybe I just need to roll over. Maybe this is an advantage. If you read the stories in the book, you might see that actually your situation can be used as power. And sometimes the steps that you're taking are because other people are taking them, or because that's what you've been told that you should do. I should put my work in this kind of place. I should put my art here. I should talk about it in this way. I should price it at this price. And sometimes those pieces of advice, those steps, aren't actually the right ones for you. And so in those instances, it's about just slowing down a little bit and stopping and pausing. And then the answers come. And there's always a way. There is always a way. Just like I was on that mountain thinking, it doesn't matter. You're going to get down, whether it's a helicopter, whether it's a friend, whether it's you figuring this out, you're going to get down. And remind yourself of that too. There is always a way, always a way. Take care, and I'll see you next week.